Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم. So maybe I can do like this so that I won't sit far away from you. Okay. So last week we started discussing afterlife, and we said, why do you believe in afterlife? Was sort of our question. And one of the things that appeared quite frequently was, I believe in afterlife because I believe in Prophet. Prophet says there's afterlife, so I believe in afterlife. Or I believe in Qur'an. Qur'an says that there's afterlife, so I believe in afterlife. Or there was also something along the lines of having afterlife is good because otherwise, I would like it to exist, was one of the messages that I remembered. So this week, I would like, let's start from, this is a long discussion, but I'm not going to make it too long, but let's make some beginnings. This would be what I will try to do, inshallah. And this verse is going to be the inspiration for the rest of the conversation. This is from Surah Al-Rum, which is chapter 30, and the verse we are reading is verse 50. فانظر إلى آثار رحمة الله كيف يحيي الأرض بعد موتها إن ذلك لمحيي الموتى وهو على كل شيء قدير. Then look and contemplate. So فانظر, I'm taking it as look and contemplate the artifacts of Allah's mercy, how He gives life to the earth after its death. Verily, the same will give life to the men who are dead. وَهُوَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ, for He has power over all things. So let's, with that verse, what is happening in the verse? So I would like you to focus on what does the Creator do here? He says a certain thing. Let's first talk about what He is saying. What do you see from here in terms of the Creator is giving us a justification as to how He will, or He resurrects the dead. Let's first talk about what this verse is saying, and then let's try to get a pattern from here. What I'm trying to say here is sometimes you read a news article. First question you ask should be, what does the guy say here? The second question here is, what does the person, the author of that article, trying to do? Let's first ask the question here. What does the Creator say here on the surface? Then let's try to generalize it. What does He try to do here? Okay, we'll, inshallah, by the end of today's discussion, you'll understand it better what I mean by this distinction. But what do you think? The argument here, what does it sound to you like? It says, look to the artifacts of Allah's mercy. So here, let me open up the verse a little more. When He says, آثار رحمة الله, these are like the works of art, works of mercy of Allah. But He says, look at them, okay? And then He says, look at them, and then gives us a justification. كيف يحيي الأرض بعد موتها. Look at them from that perspective, how He creates them after their death. إن ذلك لمحيي الموتى. Indeed, this is how He resurrects the dead. وهو على كل شيء قدير, because He has power over all things. Okay, this is the pattern. And this is a very strong verse, very, very strong verse. But let me see what is your take from this single verse, because my whole conversation is going to be focused on this verse. Any opinion? I can give you a few seconds to think about.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So in the second sentence, is there a mention specifically of giving life to men or giving life to people who are dead, or is it just that it's how he gives life?
He gives life, not men. I guess this was just a translation in there. Yeah. Muhyi al-mawta, like how he resurrects dead. Yes, Khadij.
So from this, what I like understand is that the creator, the artist, is trying to tell us, like, see all of the things that are around you. For example, there's a seed, you plant the seed and it comes to life out of nothing. But you can see there's a tree that dies out, and like there's a new tree that goes from there as well. So this is what, like, we can say the same will give life to the things that are dead. And for that, he has power over all things. That suggests to me that, like, only he can do that. Only he who is, like, resurrecting that seed, making it a tree, and then that tree is dying, and then another tree is being created. Only he who has power over all things can do that.
So what does, I mean, that's a good point. Jazakallah khair. So what does the creator attract my attention to here? Because the question here is, how does God resurrect the dead? I am dying. Am I going to be resurrected? Is there going to be an afterlife? This is the question, right? And the answer of the creator is, look at what the creator does. But I'm generalizing by the creator. He is saying that look at the artifacts of, or the outcomes of mercy of Allah. How that he says, okay, I look at them. What would you like me to see? From which lens shall I look? And he says specifically, how he resurrects dead, how he resurrects the earth after its death. So what does this tell you?
Ibrahim alayhi salam did this with 4 different birds, but we don't like Allah directly show Ibrahim alayhi salam that birds came to his calling.
Okay.
But we don't have that kind of option. But we have, we can observe each day and each season with the same concepts. Each day at night it becomes like death, but then a new sun is rising every day, and then when it's noon it's at its best, and then through Asr it becomes like it's ending, and then in Maghrib it's like, oh, day is gone, and then in night it's like we're in the grave, nothing is going on, it's so settled. And also in seasons, in summer everywhere is joyful, in fall things start to die, the leaves are falling, and in winter you see the trees as if they don't have any life in them. I remember looking at our trees in schools, on our school backyard. They didn't have any life from what I could see from outside, and I was like, oh, probably they're gonna cut them. And when spring came, they were again nourishing with leaves, and they had green leaves and flowers again. So I guess we can observe that life exists in those creations or in those creatures, but we cannot always see them. So same with death. We think that that person died, but only his body is dysfunctioning. His body is not functioning anymore, but still he has a soul. We have a soul, and that will be again resurrected in afterlife. So I guess that kind of pointing towards look and contemplate is towards the nature that we're always seeing around us.
Okay, so that's good. It's good that you reminded me of this verse of Ibrahim alayhi salam with the 4 birds. At some point we should get to there. Actually, we do see that, but we'll get to that later on, because that's a verse which needs to be studied separately. I should be able to bear witness to what Ibrahim alayhi salam experienced in there, and we can. But let's not get there. So in general, I mean, the examples you gave are good. What does the creator do here? He's inviting me to look at this question in a certain lens. He is not saying that, look, I say that resurrection will happen. I say it in my book. Are you still asking the question? How dare you? This is not the attitude that Qur'an has. But rather, Qur'an is saying that, look, it's interesting. It invites us to look at something, because somebody comes and says, well, how are you doing this job? And I say, look at my title. Are you still? Quran doesn't do that. He doesn't say that I am God. Don't you believe me? He doesn't say that, right? But he says, look, I'm going to show you an evidence. You have a question, I know. And it's okay that you have a question. Actually, I made you have that question, the creator is as if saying. And here I also provide you some evidence, some answer, which is going to satisfy you. And he says, Athari rahmatillah, look at the artifacts of mercy. What are the artifacts of mercy? How he creates, he resurrects the earth after its death. Of course, we need to ask a question here. Do you observe artifacts of mercy? Because the creator is saying that it's artifacts of mercy. Do you see it as artifacts of mercy? If you are not, then this evidence wouldn't work for you. So do not take it and anything on the surface value. Today it might work for you, but tomorrow, once the life becomes a little more challenging, it's not going to work for you anymore. So see, do you observe artifacts of mercy in the existence? And he says, once you see that, once you see a merciful act of resurrection happening on earth, then the creator is going to build his argument on top of that. This is how he resurrects the dead, and then concludes, وَهُوَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. He has power over everything. So what is the pattern here? Nobody is judging you for having the question, actually. By giving you that answer, the creator is actually saying that it's good that you have a question. Like if you were to ask me a question saying that, oh, you should condemn such and such, right? I would say, well, why shall I? I can say, right? If I didn't like that statement, I would say, why shall I? If I asked the question and if I didn't like that question being asked, I would say that's a wrong question. I wouldn't answer that question, right? We asked the question and the creator is answering that question. What does that mean? He is supporting the question. So asking the question of, am I going to be resurrected, is a valid question. By answering that question, the creator is saying that it's okay. And actually, I'm supporting you asking that question. First of all, let's take that, okay? It's okay and perfectly beautiful, not only okay. The creator is encouraging, by giving us this answer, encouraging us to have that question. It's okay, it should be there. And the answer is not talking about the authority, saying that I say so, so it is. But rather, look what I'm creating. And then if the argument is going to be built on top of that. So somebody says, Yusuf, are you going to have a discussion next week? I mean, of course, this is not a perfect example, but I could say that, well, have you not seen that we have been having these discussions for the past how many years? So what makes you think that we will not have it next week? So if you are having some doubts about it, like there must be a reasonable cause for you to have a doubt about it. But I have an evidence that this has been ongoing for years. And yes, we will have it next week as well. There's nothing that prevents it. So I am coming up with an evidence from what has been done before. And you know it, you experienced it. So it becomes an evidence. It's not like I say so, so it will be there. No, I'm coming up with an evidence to support my claim. So Creator does the same here. Now I have a ton of questions. That was the verse, and I will be expecting answers from that single verse. Okay. My first question is, are you convinced that there exists a God? If yes, why? What makes you think? Why am I asking that question? Let's first work on that example over the first verse. It starts by saying, فَانْظُرْ إِلَىٰ آثَارِ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ. So acts of mercy or artifacts of mercy of Allah. Well, you say that it's not mercy, it just happens by itself. Like, let's say this super religious guy comes and says, oh, here are the birds and they are the act of mercy of Allah. And you say, no, they're just products of evolution. I mean, no mercy, no whatsoever. No God either, it's by chance, right? if you think as such, there's no further conversation because there's no God for you. Forget about afterlife or anything. It just happens by chance, right? So this is why our first question is going to be, are you convinced that there exists a maker, a creator, or does it happen by itself? Like, for example, oh yeah, of course. I mean, the trees, you thought the trees were dead in the fall, but actually they were not dead. You know, if you put them under the microscope, you will see that the cells are still moving. They were sleeping and they are waking up. I mean, they're not resurrected, man. Come on. Like they were there. So this just life keeps reproducing itself. I mean, there's no act of God there. What are you talking about? Would become the response. But here the point is this act what you are observing in the plant, what you're observing in a cell or anywhere, can it happen by itself? Ask this yourself honestly. If your answer is yes, then forget about discussing afterlife or anything. This is our topic to discuss. Can it happen by itself? If you think that no way it cannot happen by itself, then that means there must exist someone who is taking care of that. Then we can start having a conversation. Since we had this conversation before, I'm not digging that too much. But that conversation will tell you that, yes, there exists Allah. There must exist Allah. My second question is, are you convinced that God is all-merciful? If yes, why? And now I will ask this to you. I will not give answers. Are you convinced that God is all-merciful? If yes, tell me what makes you think that God is merciful. Yes.
The first example is like when there's like really hot weather and all of a sudden it like rains. Like I think that's an example of mercy.
Okay. So there's hot weather and then coolness comes, and then you say that, oh, the one who sent the coolness is merciful, right?
Yeah. Or like when you feel mercy towards someone because you see them in pain, like that's not something that's inherent in us, but it's given to experience.
Which one? The pain or feeling of?
If say someone else is in pain
Okay.
and you feel bad for that person,
Oh, so
then that feeling is not.
oh, where does this feeling come from? Okay. Yeah. So I have this feeling of mercy toward this miserable guy who's in pain. So since you're sitting next to me, so then you question in the first place, where did this feeling come from? So that mercy in you is indicating that there must be someone who put that mercy in there. Okay.
To give the example one time of your son,
Mm.
like how
Yeah. So I guess this could be one example saying that you feel like, I mean, a lot of gentlemen here, they feel like they're tough guys and they're not that merciful, which I was thinking like that too. But when my firstborn was born, so that feeling which was very alien to me, I found it there. So where did this feeling come from? Was a question. So which we can take it as who put it there? There must be someone who put that feeling over there, right? What else? Mithat has something in there.
I think when you go through like times that are tough and then you move past that, I feel like that's also a sign of His mercy, because if you want, like if it was up to us, I feel like we just wallow in our misery. But I feel like saying that like there's brighter things and make you feel better, I think that's a sign of His mercy as well.
Yeah. So what do you think? Is signs of mercy everywhere, or is it just once upon a time here and there? Which is majority? Is it like misery is more or mercy is more? Like, have you had an atheist friend who was challenging you with merciful God?
Absolutely.
And you had an answer for them?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you have an answer for yourself? Okay, go ahead.
But now it's better than what the answer that I gave to them, because the answer that I gave to them was like, oh, well, the misery in the world, like people create it, not God. God only creates mercy. But that was because I was seeing the good things as mercy, but I wasn't seeing the bad things as mercy. But now my idea on that has changed. And I guess and I guess a big part of it is just like looking at your experience rather than looking at other people. Like if I look at my life and I'm just speaking for myself, I have experienced the mercy. Even in the bad times, like sometimes I go through bad times and there have been many times where I've seen why I need to go through those bad times. So I see the mercy in there. And because I've been seeing that, now I'm at a point where if I go through a bad time and I'm not seeing the wisdom in there and not seeing why, I just trust that there has to be a better plan. So I think the second question actually follows from the first question. Like if you believe that there exists a God and that God is telling you that I am merciful, then then that is a sign for you that you're supposed to change your lens.
Mhm. Good. What do you think, folks? Mercy. Because I have heard this a lot. Like my friends who used to be religious kids, this was in 10th grade. They were super religiously active as well, like going and collecting donations from people within the context of our country, whatever. So at the beginning of the year, 4 months into the term, and they were not even fasting. And they were saying, well, if God is merciful, then why children are being killed? And nowadays, a lot of children are being killed, so it's right in front of our eyes. So what do you think, Summer?
I think us humans, we see part of, like, the good thing that we see, we consider it as mercy. But mercy is more general like that. We only see, like, our vision is narrow to the good things that we will call mercy. For example, we all, alhamdulillah, woke up today with a good health, we could walk. That's mercy for all. But we don't usually see that because it's been there a long time, every day, same thing. But we see that how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is merciful and He gives us the help when we're sick. So we only notice, so okay, when the blessing is away from us, we say God is not merciful. But when is it with us, we don't mention.
Yeah.
So there are two kinds of merciful acts that you will only observe one side of it.
So actually, this is a very valid point. My mom used to be a housewife. Every time, whenever I need her, she was there, which I never noticed. Then I was at the secondary school. She decided to have some sort of part-time job sort of a thing. I remember how upset I was. This was the first time I was noticing that my mom was always there. Like her lack of being there, which was, I don't know, I was maybe 15 by that time or 13, 14 times you multiply the moments, right? For that many moments, I was together with her mercy being always there. And maybe I was going to feel lack of it when I came from school for one or 2 hours at most. So this lack of mercy for those moments, or I mean, not experiencing it right there, was making me so angry or upset or whatever. So then we need to observe there is mercy, because athar al-rahma means there are artifacts, and don't you see that they are being provided to you by someone who cares about you? Like the oxygen that we have been breathing since the beginning of this discussion, it's there. We didn't produce it. We didn't bring it in here. Like if you were in need of oxygen to be carried to you with an oxygen tank, you would know that it's a thing. Like bringing oxygen to you is a thing. But have you ever considered that it's being provided to you? And you're not paying for it, right? Like what if Pico was selling oxygen rather than electricity, and you have to pay for your oxygen? So we are not even paying that. It is it is the most important thing for us, and we are not paying for it at all. So who provides it? You name it. I mean, oxygen is just a thing. How about you being you? Just you're being given you-ness, if you like. You're a being, you're a thing. What makes you a thing in the first place? Do you just happen to be?
I was gonna give the oxygen example as well. We know that we're not gonna enter Jannah, like heaven, with our deeds, but with Allah's mercy. There are some stories that are just to make this point clear, but I'm just gonna mention the reality of things. When we're breathing, that requires a shukr, because having able to breathe is a really big mercy that Allah is giving us, but also giving that breath, like exhaling that breath is also mercy.
Mhm.
Because if we had to hold it inside, if we couldn't get it out, then we would die too. So every breath requires two shukr, but we're not able. If we were constantly doing dhikr, alhamdulillah, 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 still we would be short of our deeds.
Yeah.
For what it requires. So like that simple example, when I read this, I was like, okay, yes, Allah is definitely merciful.
Yes.
And I guess another thing is that we take misery out of context, which is why we just look at it as misery. And I guess this is also what that first verse is telling us. Where it is like, like look around you, like observe what's happening and don't take things out of context. Because if you see like that tree that's dying and you look at like everything in the winter, you're gonna be like, wow, like this is so sad. And you actually feel the winter blues and the depression and all that. But then when you look at the whole picture and you're seeing it bloom again in spring, you're like, wow, this is the most beautiful thing that I've seen. My eyes needed that rest to appreciate this even more. Then you're gonna see that mercy there. So
Mhm. So in general, when looking at the existence, we take many things for granted. And this verse was inviting us to look at the things that we experience and see something in there which we do not see. Look at the artifacts and see that there must be a merciful one who is taking care of that. But it takes us to get out of our comfort zone. And I guess very simple examples for that would be if you were to get to home and find a pie on the table, you would say that who put it there? You would ask that question, right? Why not ask the same question about the oxygen? Who put oxygen here? We take it as, well, it happened to be there. I found it to be there since I was born. But does this mean that it's not put there? Because that oxygen is coming to you after a lot of things are happening. So who is the one who keeps doing that and keeps giving you oxygen? So Zahar was making a comment. The question is in itself is problematic because it takes a lot of things for granted. We can discuss children being killed, but first, why do you have a problem? Children are dying. Who cares? But you do have a problem with that. So Zahar is referring to the question which says, well, how about the people like children dying? If God was merciful, then such a thing wouldn't happen. So how about, why do you ask that question in the first place? Is what Zahar is asking in here. You are asking that question because you feel troubled with what's happening there. The question, then a more relevant question is, what makes you feel troubled with this scene, as Rida was pointing to, right? Where did this feeling of being troubled by children being killed come from? Is it yours? Like, is it that you are super merciful and you're harboring this feeling in you? Or that feeling is put in there? What is the source of that feeling? Is it you? Or it comes from somewhere else? We need to be honestly questioning this. Let me first ask Kadir and then I'll get to you.
So my question is like, is related to the answer that everyone gave, like it says all merciful, but sometimes you do not see mercy. Sometimes I would say like most of the time people don't see mercy, like they live their lifetimes and they don't see mercy in a lot of things that they considered that was misery in their life. But how Dua pointed out was like you see mercy in different kind of things, but my point to that is, and brother also said the kind of same similar thing, that is kind of saying it's causality, like if there's this thing exists, so this must exist. So my question is that like, and if the creator is the one that gives us mercy, he can give us all the answers, like how this can be merciful. That could be a question as well, but I think that's a top-down approach. So I would not ask that question. But my question is like, sometimes you do not see mercy. So how do you deal with that? Because the other argument, that argument doesn't sound valid to me because it feels like it's causality. Like you're seeing one thing, so if one thing exists, so the other must exist too.
Okay, so then your question is, sometimes there are things which I do not see mercy in, such as, like still, Zahar's approach is not maybe answering why children are being killed. I mean, yes, what Zahar asked is a legitimate question to say that a person is denying the existence of mercy, saying that, oh, this case is not merciful, then he's not, if you like, turning the table and saying that, where did this question coming from? Somebody merciful put that question to you, right? So this is that a merciful one exists, but still we have the question about how about the children that's being killed, right? That stays, and we'll talk about that. Rida had another question.
Mine goes back to the point of how it's like the feeling is given to us because when we see that we are troubled by it, but some people don't seem to be troubled by it. So I think it's not like innately, you don't have to be necessarily like human to experience it. It has to be given to us by someone else.
So in such cases, if somebody wants to cover it up, that's possible. Like a person might not be feeling mercy towards somebody else or might have killed that aspect of that person. So for that person, I would say it's that person's problem. For that person, because I mean, as I can cut my hand, I can really cut me to accept mercy as well. Like, because mercy is being given to me, but I can say, no, I'm not going to be merciful. So you can deny mercy of the Creator by rejecting his mercy being manifest through you. So it's pretty much like cutting your hand. That's possible. If a person chooses to do so, then for that person, God does not exist because of that person's own choices. He tied his own hands. This is what kafir means. Kafir is covering up truth. You know the truth is there, but you're covering it up knowingly. You can't do anything to that person. This is why at the beginning of Surah Baqarah, when it's talking about the kafir, innal ladhina kafaru, those who do denial, he says it is the same if you warn them or if you do not warn them, it's the same for them. What does that mean? If this guy is asking me, Bilgehan asks, do you have a phone? But I covered it up. I know I have a phone, but I covered it up knowingly. And I say, no, I don't have a phone. He says, no, the phone is there. I say, no, it's not there. Can he convince me that there's phone? I knowingly covered it up. I know it is there, but I don't want to admit that it is there. So even if he were to tell me a million times, no, here's the phone, I would say, even if he were to open it up, I would say, no, there is no phone, right? Because it's a deliberate choice. Denial is a deliberate choice. So if a person chooses to do so, it's that person's problem. But where am I? Our question is, where am I? So let me wrap it up with mercy. Acts of mercy is everywhere. It is in the oxygen. It is in your whatever you have eaten in the breakfast, in the lunch, or even the ability for you to hear right now is somebody carrying my words to your ear. Is it not the case? Does it happen by itself, by chance? Because like my research nowadays is with Bluetooth, and we are trying to send these signals to that Bluetooth. It takes a lot of research and development to make sure that it's working. I have never tried anything to send this message to you. I speak and it comes you. I didn't check what is the protocol, how shall I pack the data packages and send it to you. I just speak and it comes to you. How does it work? I don't know. I just throw the words out of my mouth as if I'm spitting, and it comes to your ear, and communication is established. This is a miraculous creation if you think about it, but we take it for granted. Have you ever thought about how you communicate by speaking? This keeps happening every moment. And think about how fundamental communication is part of our life, and see how somebody caring about me is carrying those messages in the air. Mercy is everywhere, but still the innocent children is being killed by some cruel people. This child also deserves mercy as well. So by observing mercy everywhere, what is being your conclusion? Your conclusion is being that there must exist a merciful creator. But I do see that some cruel people of power are dying just like this innocent child, and when they get to the grave, they are the same. Does mercy allow this? You would say that no. If that mercy is real, this could not be the case. Yes.
I guess we spend quite some time talking about how we can verify that God is merciful, but how do we verify that he exists in the first place?
Oh, I just passed it because of the past 1 year's discussion.
Okay.
Yeah. But now what we are discussing is there must exist a merciful God. So do you see that this air, like the communication that's happening, there must exist someone who is taking care of that? So this could be taken as there must exist someone, a God who is really taking the word from my mouth, taking it to your ear. There must exist someone. And that someone is merciful because that's a necessary thing. Someone merciful is really carrying these words to your ear. And mercy is everywhere. But yes, this child is being killed. And then child who is deserving of mercy is killed. And the one who kills it, who kills the child, who does not deserve mercy, is living a comfortable life. This is now contradicting the mercy that I observe everywhere. This cannot be the case. This is why you would say, and I would say, there must be, it cannot be the end. The death cannot be the end of it. If it was, then mercy wouldn't be mercy in the first place. Then there must exist a resurrection. There must exist where the killer will be taken into account and the innocent child who is killed is going to demand her right from the killer. This is what the mercy requires. If to the extent that you are sure about the mercy, you say that there must exist an afterlife. Otherwise, this mercy is a lie. Either or, like either the mercy is a lie or there must exist an afterlife. To the extent that you are sure about the mercy, you will be sure about the afterlife. So just let me tie it up and then I will give the words to you. Why is this the same with this verse? As I was saying, the Creator is teaching us a method in this verse. Look at the creation, see the acts of mercy. Then you conclude that, oh, there's a Rahman, there's a merciful Creator. And then you say, well, since there's a merciful Creator, but death is a seemingly unmerciful thing. Like, even forget about the child being killed. You will be killed, folks. I will be killed. Does it matter if I die at 40 or 60 or 70? I die at the end of the day. What sort of a mercy is that, right? Like, are you okay if somebody comes and kills your grandfather of age 80? Still, it's unmerciful, isn't it? You will be killed at age 80 as well, at most, let's say. So death is there and it's real. Somebody who has been taking care of me with full mercy until age 80. And that mercy is real. So death cannot be the end. That mercy would say that I know you hate death and I'm going to give you life. The mercy of the Creator, so the divine name Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim, requires that there must exist a merciful, like an afterlife. To give a very simple example for that, if you see a person who is super trustworthy, but super careful, like imagine, since Prophet was an example for that, throughout his life, not a single sign of lie. People have been observing him from very close. They even called him Al-Amin. Every action. So, and then he comes and says one word one day. What would you say? I am sure this guy is truthful. I have been with him for 20 years, let's say. What he says today must be true because I am so sure about him being true, right? Your conviction when Abu Bakr said, if he said so, it must be true for ascension, it was not a blind faith. It was based on him being the very close companion and observing him for so many years. He sees that he's so much of a man of integrity, no lie in his life. If this is a lie, his whole life would have been a lie, but his whole life was integrity. So what he is saying today, for that sense only would be true because of his integrity. This is a verb. How about act? If you see that I produce very nice products for 50 years flat, and a new product comes from my hand. I mean, this generally happens with, let's say, Japanese products. So Japans are very good at producing stuff. And you say that, well, a new product comes out of some Japanese company. And you say, well, I mean, they are good at that, man. So you can close your eyes and buy it. Is this a like wishful thinking, or is it relying on a history of behavior? Likewise, but much more strong, because concluding about a merciful creator is much more stronger than concluding about quality of product of a certain company. You would be saying that either there has to be an afterlife, or what I consider as mercy is a torture. Meaning, now I can talk to Usame on the other corner of the room, but this is not an act of mercy, actually. God is just torturing us with that. He has very hidden agenda. Eventually, he makes us love this conversation, and at the end, he's going to crush us with death and enjoy watching us dying. Which one would you like to accept? There were two questions. Who wants to go first?
Go for it.
Mine is a bit controversial.
No, I guess I had trouble when at first you talked about how, like, because I'm seeing the child die and somebody else is living really happily, how that can be a source to confirm that there is going to be an afterlife. But I was thinking that it is not necessary that that thing that we're seeing is not merciful is actually not merciful, because it's like, if I'm going through something troubling, that is a teaching moment for me. So that is God being merciful. If that kid is being killed, that kid doesn't have any sin, so he gets a direct entry to Jannah. Like that, how do I verify that it is not my feelings that are wrong?
That aspect for you is right. Like when it looks to you, you feeling sorry for that child, there's a teaching aspect and everything. That feeling is merciful, everything is merciful. But still, there is an immerciful aspect, which is that person who willingly killed that child had an ill will, which requires punishment. I mean, there is, that aspect is evil for that person. And punishment of that would be beauty, would be mercy. And this is lacking in this world. And I would like to see that as well, right? So this is why we would say, for the picture to be completed. So the way I see this is, and the pattern is, in this example, let me go back to here again. So looking at the existence, we came to the conclusion that there must exist a Rahman, there must exist a Rahim. It's like you see a super huge picture, which is as large as the wall, let's say. But in the corner of this picture, somewhere over here, you feel like something is missing in that picture. So either you will say that the artist, looking everywhere else in the picture, you say that the artist is so talented. But then you look at this small picture, small point over here. Why did the artist didn't complete that point over here? Everywhere is mercy, but when you look at the small point, you see that, well, this seems to be, something is missing. Then what would you ask? Would you say that, well, maybe he was not a good artist? Or would you say that the artist, by leaving this point empty, left a message with this to me? This is how it is. In the existence, I do observe mercy everywhere. And by everywhere, I mean, go it as deep as your personal life and breathing air and hearing and listening and everything. But then there's death. Death of the child, death of me, death of everything. Death is everywhere. Now, which is a problem. So then you say that, well, since he's merciful and I see this everywhere, then there must be a way that this emptiness in that picture, or what seemingly seems to be a problem, has to be solved. How does it get solved? There has to be an afterlife. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. The mercy becomes a lie. But I am sure mercy is there. right? Does it make sense?
Yes.
So the general pattern in here is, that's why I picked this verse. Look at the existence. Like first, keep your question. Question is good. Then look at the existence. You're going to find your answer from within the existence. The Creator is teaching us. So Creator is not telling us to close your eyes and accept what I say. This is not a Quranic approach. Let's be clear about that. Close your eyes and accept what I say is not a Quranic approach. Quran is holding our hand and saying that, don't worry, I'm going to teach you. I'm going to walk you through that. And he says, okay, as if, metaphorically speaking, your Creator holds your hands and says, don't you see mercy here? Don't you see mercy here? Don't you see how after everything was dead, the earth is resurrected? Isn't this a gift to you? Like if in the spring, no plants came out, life on earth will end. No plants, no animals, no nothing. What would you do? No food. If resurrection of the land does not happen one season, 1 year, life on earth will finish immediately, right? If you can live right now, if you can breathe air or eat anything right now, it is by the mercy of your Creator. Don't you see that? Once you establish mercifulness of the Creator, then you say, yes, this is the answer to your question. This is how he will resurrect you, because he is merciful. Too controversial? Is it going to, if it's going to
It's
dear
gonna make the child being not killed case much harder to
I
live.
got something to say. Sure. Can I do it?
Sure, yeah, go on.
The discussion reminds me of the ayah. وضربنا للناس من كل مثل وكان الإنسان كما شيء جدا. How can I know the first part, like we gave an example for everything, an example in this way.
Translate us the second part.
Second part, and the human was the most
Jadal is like fighting for it,
a lot of talk, a long discussion.
arguing against. It gets into arguments.
I'm not sure exactly.
Jadal is like
Generally,
it's a fight.
Yeah, it's a dead conversation.
Mhm.
Can say.
Arguing against, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So can we relate it to that example? Like we can see the examples of mercy in this life as well with everything else.
Yeah.
So
But there would be something for which we cannot see mercy, because this child has the right to ask, or even for you, forget about the child, you will die. Right? There is mercy in death. Like if no afterlife, death, if death is total annihilation, like for a second, put your idea that, oh, we are going to be resurrected because I heard it from my father. Put it aside for a second. Just imagine or feel like there is no life after you are dead. How do you feel? For a second, feel about it. Not only think, how do you feel? There's no life after you die. How does it feel? Can you digest it? Like being unplugged and becoming blank.
Then there will be no justice, like innocent lives like are being died, and after death they don't have any justice.
Like you take it this way. I give you an assignment today as a teacher, and as the due date comes, you put all the effort, you did the assignment, and I say, oh, it's canceled, assignment is canceled. What would you say? I mean, you get crazy, right? I mean, this guy didn't do the assignment. For him, it's perfect. Oh, he says, oh, I didn't do it. It's nice, right? And now you put all the effort, and I canceled the assignment, and you two are equal now. There is mercy in here. You would say, it doesn't make any sense. You wasted my time, you wasted you wasted everything, right? You live 8 years of life, and I say, canceled. Nothing, no life after. There is mercy in here, as if somebody is mocking you, right? That becomes annihilator of everything. Death nullifies the mercy that you observe everywhere. If there's no life after this life, then the mercy itself becomes a lie. But you do know that there is mercy. Let me give you a more stark example. Take your mother, okay? You love your mother. You have been with your mother for 20 whatever years. And I come and say, you know why your mother is so merciful with you? Once you grow old enough, she's going to eat you. Would you believe in that? Why? Because you are so sure of mercy of your mother, right? Now, you do observe act of mercy in this creation, and then you see that there seems to be a door, and whomever passes this door becomes nothing. Somebody ate the guy. It is the same. For 80 years, or for so far for 20 years, you have been maintained with mercy of your creator, if you pay attention to it. And somebody comes and says, your God is going to make you nothing. You will become nothing. You'll be eaten when you die. Would you believe in that? You will, if you are not sure about the mercy of your maker. If you're sure about the mercy of your maker, you would say that, well, passing from this door cannot be going to nothing. I am sure something better is prepared after the door. Otherwise, if passing from this door really kills me or makes me nothing, then the mercy in here is a whole lie. Going back to our example, then your mother was dishonestly pretending as if she is merciful to you. If she's feeding you so that eventually she is going to cook you and make a biryani out of you, the mercy she shows you today is a total lie. It's not a real mercy. But as a human, you know that your mother is genuinely caring about you. Therefore, you say that, no, she would never cook me. Come on, right? So if you are sure about mercy of your creator, then you would say that there must exist an afterlife. Otherwise, life is a lie. Like the whole experience of life becomes a deception. I mean, then you have to become paranoid at this moment because you're not even trusting your own feelings or conviction or anything. And if you do not feel your own conviction, then you're nuts anyways. Like you're not worthy to be talked to in this case. If I said, well, I see Peter Parker over there, Spider-Man, but maybe he's not there. It's just my hallucinations. I don't know, right? This is what it becomes. If it gets to that level of distrust to your perception, then you're not worthy. I mean, some bigger problem is there then. If you know your mother is merciful, you can know more that your creator is merciful. And to the extent that you become sure about that, you would say there has to be an afterlife. Otherwise, death is the biggest unmercy, or what's it? What's the opposite of mercy? Cruelness? Cruelty. Since he is merciful, and I'm sure about it, then death is not end. There must exist an afterlife. There must exist, which now takes us to justice. Let's do that. We started, well, we only have 6 minutes. We started at 4:08, 3:08. So do you believe that God is all just? Again, it's the same question. How do you know God is just? Again, your atheist friend would say that, look, innocent child dies in misery, and the killers, billionaires, they are living in all those luxury houses. They don't seem to, like, they get into the same grave. They get equalized at the end, but, and Qur'an is mentioning the children, like the girls who were buried alive. The one who buries them alive gets into the grave. The girl gets into the grave. What sort of an injustice is that? At the end, they become the same, equal. The one who makes me see this says that I cannot accept that. That feeling in me says, no, that's impossible. And the one who creates me puts that, the one who creates that scene, the one who is even today creating the scenes in Gaza, is giving that feeling in me of hatred towards what's going on. Yet, he is the one who kills the innocent baby. The creator is creating death. Like somebody is willing to kill someone. This is their problem. But the creator is creating the death, right? Where is justice in here? Very quickly, if I can get one answer.
I love stories of justice.
You love stories of justice.
Yeah.
And that means God is all just.
Yes. Because he created that feeling in me that likes, that is pleased when I hear of justice. When, for example, if, I'm not gonna say it, but if like a really bad ruler gets like, his deserved end, he loses the kingdom, I'm gonna be like, this is really great. I'll be happy with that.
Okay.
So the one who puts that feeling in me must also then like justice.
Okay. And it would be nice if he also writes justice stories, but he writes injustice stories as well, right? Yeah.
I think he is just because even if things don't work out the way they're supposed to in this world, there will be justice in the next, like in the afterlife.
That would be our conclusion, though. First, I need to see justice here, and then be sure that since he is just, but there's this small apparent injustice, for this, he would create another realm of justice, would be my conclusion.
At least with the minor stuff that where I thought I experienced injustice. Like I feel like things always work out, but it's not immediate. It takes a few years.
Mm.
And so like, like in that moment, I'll be like, oh my God, like, why am I going through this? But then after a few years later, I'm like, things have an interesting way of playing out just the way they do. And that gives me trust.
That's beautiful. In human, we see that. But let's not focus on only human. Justice applies everywhere. Again, look, this is how we started, right? Look at the act of mercy in the creation was how it started. Because what troubled us in the example of mercy was why the innocent child is being killed, right? But then we said, no, mercy is everywhere. Then how does it apply to here was our question. Do the same with justice. Is the creator just? Let's put human beings aside for a second. In the rest of the existence, what does it mean for the creator to be just? What do you understand from justice? When it comes to be an engineer, for example. What would be a just engineer? What does justice mean? Giving the thing, person of law, talk.
Sorry, with engineering, a just engineer would be someone that builds structures that sustain themselves, not that can easily collapse in 2 seconds.
Exactly, right? There is a due of a good building. If you build the building, give it its due in terms of how to do the structure and everything, then you are doing justice to the work that you do. If I make a flimsy building, then I did injustice, right? So for engineer, how would be justice for a musician? How would be just for an artist, right? Giving things its due, doing things within a measure. Qur'an uses in Surah Al-Rahman, Mizan, the word Mizan 4 times in 3 consecutive verses. Mizan, like, the symbol of justice is what? This lady, sword, and Mizan, like the scale in her hand.
Lady Liberty?
Lady Liberty? No,
Yes, that's
Uh,
Liberty.
That's
not the Statue of Liberty, but the other one. So in one hand, there's this sword, in the other hand, there's a scale. You don't know it? Anyways, the symbol of justice is that scale. Scale is because you need to scale both sides and make a decision based on that, right? And Mizan means justice, and Mizan is everywhere. In engineering, an engineer must be just, meaning do whatever it takes to do the job. Agriculture, if you see an apple, do you see measure in that apple? It's made with measure. You say that, the maker of the apple is carefully putting what an apple should be like, and an apple does not look like a dinosaur. I say dinosaur because Ali is watching Peppa Pig. Dinosaur. But apples do not look like a dinosaur, right? Because it would be unjust to make an apple look like a dinosaur. So looking at the whole existence, you can say that, wow, the one who made this really paid extra attention to make an apple as such. It's beautiful for my tongue. It's beautiful for my teeth and everything. the one who builds this knows how it's going to be consumed, made a justice to me, to the apple. Justice is everywhere in this existence. But then you come to human beings. You see justice among human beings to a large extent as well. But then you see some problems of justice among human beings too, which was the example that I gave you. So again, the pattern is the same. You look at the existence, you do observe justice, you came to conclusion that there exists a just maker, a just creator, which is Al-Adil. So this is the Quranic approach. Look at the existence, summarize it to a divine name. Seeing the pattern of behavior of the creator, you say that, oh, of course, there must exist a just creator. Otherwise, how would I explain all the justice that I observe? But then your atheist friend brings up, or even you observe it yourself and say that, how about the innocent child that's killed? The tyrant killer didn't pay what he's supposed to pay. You say then this just one cannot make us equal with that. The tyrant will have to receive its punishment, and the innocent will receive its reward, must receive its reward. This is what justice demands. And I do know that he is just by my experience with him. So again, the same thing. You see a huge picture of justice everywhere, and at the corner of it, you see that something is missing. Why did he leave it missing? For you to say that your training is not done. I leave this missing. Otherwise, he painted the whole picture. It's not that he couldn't paint this portion of the picture either, but he says, I have a message for you. I am leaving it empty so that you think death is not the end. My justice will keep going on. This is why, by his justice, you would say that since I am convinced, so sure that a just creator exists, then there must exist afterlife, becomes your conclusion. Your mother will not eat you. You are sure about that? Your creator will not eat you. Your creator will not let this innocent child being equal with its killer at death. Again, how can I be sure about that? To the extent I look at the existence, I look at the creation. As much as I get convinced that there must exist a merciful one, there must exist a just one, so on and so forth, then I would say, therefore, there must exist an afterlife. Otherwise, there's no mercy. Otherwise, there's no justice. And we can keep going on with that. Qur'an, 1/3 of Qur'an is about akhirah. It's everywhere in Qur'an, but with several angles. We just talked about Rahman, Rahim, Al-Adl. I'll just pull up more names here for you. Al-Hakim, wisdom. Because are you convinced that God is all wise? Why not ask for yourself? Look at the creation. Do you see that the one who creates, is it wise? To the extent that you're convinced that he is wise, then you would say, well, killing the whole existence and making it nothing is so wasteful. It's contradicting the wisdom. Since there must exist a wise creator, death cannot be the end. There must exist afterlife. Kareem, the one who keeps providing. Al-Jawad, the generous one. Are you sure that God is generous? You know that God loves giving? If you are, then that is taking everything from your hand. There's generosity here. Keeps going like this. Al-Mujib, answering the du'as. Al-Jalil, Al-Baqi. So the list keeps going and going. So I'll not take much of your time. Just let's wrap it up by saying the first verse again. And let me conclude with what I was asking. This verse is saying something. It's saying us about mercy, but it's teaching us an approach. It is saying that look at the creation, look at the existence. Don't you see? Now fill in the blanks, mercy or justice or wisdom. You fill in the blanks. Once you see them, you get convinced about them. Do not take things for granted. Is the air was our example, right? It's a gift, isn't it, right? Look at all these. Then you will see that there must exist a merciful one, then ask yourself, does this merciful one or does this just one would allow death to be an annihilation and becoming nothing? Then mercy becomes a lie, justice becomes a lie. But I know justice is there, therefore afterlife must exist. And you will be sure about it, as sure as your mother will not make you biryani out of you. Okay? So this is why belief in afterlife is not a blind faith or anything of this sort. You can be so sure of it as you are sure that your mother is not groping you to make biryani out of you. Make sense? So this is belief in afterlife. It's a conviction. It's not a wishful thinking. Oh, it would be nice if it happens to be so. Or it's not, oh, Quran says so, so it must be so. No, I am sure about it as much as I am sure that I do observe and I am convinced about an all-merciful creator.
While we have you, please, can we, that Friday is Jummah and we are approaching Asr time. Do you mind making a dua and concluding?
Yes, inshallah. Hazrat will make the dua for us. Who wants to make the dua? Yes, somebody make a dua.
If someone is open to it, someone lead us in a group in dua. One, you learn knowledge, but it's also approaching Asr time on the most blessed day of the week. Can we make a special dua for our brothers and sisters in Palestine?
Ibrahim?
اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى ال محمد كما صليت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد. اللهم اعز الاسلام والمسلمين واذل شر المشركين ودمر اعداء الدين. Please alleviate the suffering of the Muslims in Palestine, Gaza, the West Bank, in Syria, in Sudan, in Yemen, in Libya, all over the world. Please increase them in Iman, increase us in Iman, and alleviate the pain they're going through. And let them die as shuhada, with acceptance of Jannah's Firdaus. And us that are here that can't physically help them, grant us the reward for the effort that we try, and grant us the Jannah's Firdaus to unite with them. Amen. Please free Palestine, grant the Muslims sovereignty over themselves, and allow us to pray the Lord. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد ان لا اله الا انت نستغفرك ونتوب اليك سبحان ربك رب العزه عما يصفون سلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين